Greetings, guys. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Monette, and this is my channel, Evolve with Monette. I am so happy to share some energy with you. For those of you that are new here, I am a professional intuitive empath, and today we're going to talk about an interesting phenomenon, that of the broken clock being right twice a day. Now, I had something happen about 20 years ago. Someone gave me an unsolicited prediction, shall we say, and I disregarded it because I thought I knew better. I disregarded it because I felt that maybe they were being a hater. Hater, you know how we feel about our haters. The truth is that the person that gave me the prediction was a malignant narcissist. I've had two in my life, that besides my father, but two in my life that I met, as I was growing up and just in my own 20s and teenage years. Well, this one was one that was from high school that went with me throughout my 20s. A lot of people had a lot of opinions about that relationship, and I always cast them aside because I just couldn't see it. I didn't have the verbiage that we have now. I did not understand what I was dealing with till many years later, and when I did, I ran. As I suggest you do too, if you come across one of these very all-consuming characters. But this is not about an excoriation of his character per se. There are other videos which dive deep into that. I will link that above. I have one here about narcissistic best friends, and he was one of those. But what I will say is, while we were best friends, me and my best friends, an interesting combination of energies. But what I will say, that's not for all of it. I've had a couple in my life, so I want to be fair about that. But I had a new experience recently that really rocked me. So let's talk about the prediction, okay? So here's what happened. I was at a club and I had a friend with me, and we were having a good time. We were drinking with this malignant narc, and I'm just going to call him that. It's just so much easier than to go between all of these names here, all of these monikers. But this malignant narc, at the time, posturing as a friend, we partied that night, and I was super impressed with the friend that I brought with me. I thought she was the bee's knees. I was just loving and infatuated, and thought she was just, you know how you have like, you just are in complete friend infatuation, and I just thought she was great. I was in my 20s, and we were having a fun time. But we were in this position where she decided that she needed a lot of attention, and I didn't know her that well, so I didn't understand what was happening. So we spent the better part of the night chasing her around and putting out fires, because she made out with everybody. She made out with men and she made out with women, and it didn't matter. All that mattered is that she was getting attention. All that mattered is that people were paying attention to her, and I didn't care about that. I am a bisexual woman, so I had no judgment. My friend that was with me is a gay man. There is no judgment whatsoever about who she made out with. But it was other people's spouses, and that caused problems. So whether it was a same-sex couple or a straight couple, or two, a same-sex lesbian couple or male couple, it didn't matter. And that meant that he and I spent a lot of time running around the bar and getting into fights, trying to stop her drama. So the night ends, it's closing time, one last call for alcohol, time to go home. And she's had her fill, beyond the limit, which was fine. We take a few steps outside of the bar, and there she collapses completely collapses, dead weight, pretty much at the threshold of the bar. So people are trying to like get out. It's about quarter to two, and this was in Tallahassee, Florida, and so people are trying to get out of the bar, and they're not able to get out of the bar because she's kind of laid out, kind of in the middle of the way where people could move. And me and this malignant narc are trying to pick her up, and I'm like, we can't leave her here, and I'm freaking out. And he's trying, but she's just pretty obnoxious and pretty drunk, And I was just beside myself because this is just my new cool friend and I just love her so much. And we're gonna, I just really great energy with her. And at the time, I believe we were dating. It was super light. We dated for about 25 seconds. So it's so interesting the way our lives played out, because that was the least of it. It probably for both of us the most inconsequential actual dating relationship experience we had in our lives, which is just hilarious for how this has unfolded. But at the time, I think we were dating, so that's why I think her behavior was even more appalling. And I was so impressed and so wanting to like show my friend, that I was seeing this person, and I was just so excited because the flush of a new relationship and all that stuff, and the flush of ignorance and being young. How about that flush? So in any case, she's out there passed out in front of the bar, and we're trying to pick her up. And then at one point, he just stands up. He gets real serious, and he kind of like dusts himself off. He was British, and he says a few British words, slags and other things, which I don't remember, and I probably won't say here on YouTube, even if I could recall them. But here's what I do recall. He said, "You should just leave her here." I was like, no, girl code, no girl left behind. This is my friend. No. I cared about her a little bit at the time, just really did. But it wasn't like it wasn't a deep love. It was just like, oh, this is my friend. No. And he says, no, you should just leave her here. He says, she's ruined the whole night. We spent the whole night putting out fires because of her, running from here to here. He's like, I almost got into 2 fights. And he's just recounting the night to me while we're arguing over her very limp body. Okay, so she's just laying there, not moving. And he's like, I'm done. And he says, this is her station in life. This is who she'll be in 2 years. This is who she'll be in 2 weeks. This is who she'll be in 5 years. This is who she'll be in 20 years. And he said, you'll be a fool if you're still running around chasing her, putting out fires. He walked away. Something I should have done, but I didn't. I was the fool. I was the fool. I thought he was just being a jerk. I didn't like how he was always trying to break us up, break up our friendship, break up our energy. He actually sent somebody from the bar, I will never forget it, to like start communicating with her, one of the people she had made out with, while we were actively dating. Malignant narc stuff, just hate. But I disregarded it. And so when I cut him out of my life, maybe 8 years after that, or maybe sooner after that, I remember those words, and I never told my friend. What happened was another person, a drag queen, actually came out and helped us get her up, because there's a couple other patrons around, and we got her to the truck where he was seething and not happy. But what I will say is that it was something I should have heeded the advice to. He never liked her. In fact, they hated each other. I couldn't understand it. I was like, God, will these two not fight like cats and dogs? It's absolutely ridiculous. I didn't understand it. They hated each other. She never wanted to be compared to him, and I never wanted to compare to him. In fact, when I had to walk away from that relationship, when I started to get the verbiage and understand the abuse of malignant narcissist, I remember being quite smug, because I thought, and you predicted that this relationship with her wouldn't last, and here she is, and she's the last person standing, and you got this completely wrong. Except he didn't. He got it completely right. A broken clock is right twice a day. That malignant narcissist saw something in her that I did not. With my yummy, magical, black empath energy, I did not see it. I did not understand it, but he did. He really did. He tried to tell me, but I was so used to him being toxic that I just was like, yeah, whatever. She's the worst, right? And I can't say that initially it was that, but here's what I learned. In the last couple years, what I was dealing with was a covert narcissist. I've only had your garden variety malignants, Can any of you guys relate? I smile and joke about it, but it was a new and far more sinister experience to me than the malignant narcs could ever be. I could see them coming a mile away. Can't we all see them coming a mile away? We still get enmeshed. We still get involved. If you have that wounding and you're predisposed, I have videos on here discussing Harry and Meghan, and you see her coming a mile away. If anybody's ever had narc abuse, you see that coming a mile away. But there is something going on where I didn't see this one. And I struggled for the last few months until I got some good therapists that specialize in narcissistic abuse. Didn't talk to anybody about it, just kind of went to work and really started to work on this. And I also got recommended by some of those therapists some amazing peer-reviewed studies on covert narc abuse. Textbook. I will be making more videos about this. I don't think that God allows us to have experiences unless we're supposed to teach about them. I waited a few months to see, as all empaths do, is this going to be something where I'm going to be comfortable teaching about this? Am I going to feel like this is a betrayal? But see, what I learned over the last couple of years is that this person did such textbook covert narcissistic things that they gossiped about me viciously, everything from soup to nuts. I mean, from the way my hair is, to the brand of eyelashes, to stairs, to grapes, to so many things, to my spirituality. That's where I really drew the line. To trying to corrupt my spirituality that they 100% ripped off, without putting in any of the work and trying to keep me hidden, while I fueled a lot of their energy and helped to fuel what they needed, which was their new supply. Such a level of manipulation and ingratiation and ingratiating me into situations where she would ask things of me for her new supply, and I would do it because I wanted to love her, wanted to be her friend, and I was very naive with her because I knew her since I was a kid, essentially, and I really trusted her. And I did not hear his warning. I did not heed his warning. Covert narcissist. Doing covert narc things like using my sister, who's actually battling with cancer, to bring attention to herself so that she could cry and fiend. I remember her calling me and telling me, after a few weeks of me understanding what I was dealing with last summer, and I had backed away from her, and I started to really evaluate, no, there's no way. See, I got in therapy about a year ago, didn't talk about it, because I realized something was desperately off. And she called me after a few weeks of us not really communicating, probably for the first time in our friendship that I kind of backed away like that. And she was telling me how she was carrying on at her workspace office with her work wife, which her actual lover. And she was saying, I was just crying to her, and I was telling her that, why won't she let me help her? Southern. Bless her heart. Why won't I let her help me? So she was using my sister, who was actually battling with cancer, to bring attention to her. It wasn't the first time she'd done something like that. She used my illness that was exacerbated by dealing with her on a regular basis, where I was bleeding. I had stomach and autoimmune issues, and I was in the hospital last year 7 times. I didn't tell anybody. My husband only knew about a few. I didn't tell any of my friends because I thought, I'm bringing this on myself. I am so, she delighted, as covert narcs do, in having me so riled up, and I didn't even tell her, I didn't even tell her about it, but she sure did use that because of where she worked. She worked in a place that dealt with specifically my issues, and she made it this great big deal, and I didn't understand it. I was like, why is this such a big deal to you? And oh no, it's comping me that helps you, and da 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 da. Now, it's for some of you watching, you might say, well, maybe she really did want to help you. Maybe she was worried. Maybe she was actually worried that you weren't letting her help you heal regarding your sister. Well, let me clear that up for you. And those of you who have suffered narc abuse, I think you know what I'm going to say. When I stood next to her, we were overlooking a graveyard. There was lots of foreshadowing in the ending of this situation. When we were overlooking a graveyard, and I started to get a little bit verklempt about my sister, a little bit sad. She's fiercely battling, but I was sad because it's a human reaction to have a moment, and let your guard down. And I listened. I remembered with almost like a duping delight that she had, that she was just getting so much juicy supply and attention at her office because she was the consummate friend and pillar in her community, which was a bunch of BS. Because when I stood next to her with tears slipping down my face, not racking sobs, not being too needy empaths, just really contemplative and sad, she quickly, curtly, and coldly looked at me and said, "You should really talk to somebody about that. I'm not the one to talk to about that." Cold as ice. I don't know how I didn't see it. I'm not the one. So all of that carrying on she was doing in her office wasn't about her helping me. It was about a performance so that she could appear to be as gracious and as kind as she wasn't, because she wasn't. And that's the truth. She wasn't. All of that, I want to help you with your stomach, I want to be there for you, and all that stuff was just a posture and a show so that she could show her doctor, "My best friend just means everything to me. And she means so much to you that you ripped off her whole persona and literally didn't even," I mean, some single white female stuff, like sociopathy levels of behavior, because she needed a persona. Being a bitch is not enough. Maybe a spiritual bitch. And now we're cooking with fire. Yeah. So that's what I dealt with. And that's just the very tip of the iceberg. But I veer off because I have to go back to where we began. A broken clock is right twice a day. He got it right. She put me in so much unnecessary chaos and drama. She thought I wouldn't know. Out of sight, out of mind. You live 10 hours away. How could you know? I know. I never really fully explained to her who I am or what I do or the extent of my power and energy. My angels were very clear with me not to share energy with her sexually ever after that hot second in our 20s, when it was like a hot second. I don't even think it was more than a few days. It didn't even exist. But the truth is that was really a point of contention in our relationship, because I wouldn't be with her. Now, I bet that's some tea for the people in her office that would never think. But it wasn't that she wanted to be with me. It's that she wanted to be with anybody. It's that, like all narcissists, they use sex as a weapon. She wanted me to be fully under her spell. My angels were very clear with me. Don't you exchange energy with her, because if you do, everything will disappear. And I just loved her so much. And I said to her all the time, we're going to value and work on this friendship. And she became enraged and decided to punish me. And that's when the mask started to slip, because she thought, how dare you refuse me? Now, y'all, she also got to do a smear campaign that was epic. And I had no say in it. I had to hear about it. My angels would wake me up. They would tell me when it was happening. It was so vicious. But I couldn't do anything about it, because it was literally the downloads that I was receiving. I just had to kind of take being punched and gossiped about viciously, and I had to take her creating the smear campaign because she had to debunk whatever it was that I might say. She, like any narc, doesn't want to be unmasked, but the mask slipped. She wasn't that caring person. She was supremely selfish. She was far more dangerous than either of my the two malignant narcs that were in my life were like children compared to her. She is immature and childish, as all narcs are. and I'm not saying that as an insult, I'm saying that as like peer-reviewed study fact of the emotional regression. Any cluster B personality, histrionic disorder. I'm not a doctor, but I've studied enough over the last year to understand what I was dealing with to know. She was 100%. In the last week that I was there, I really pushed to try to have a conversation with her. I was trying to like get to the bottom of some stuff with us, and I was like, listen, there's all this stuff going on here that's overlapping, and if we could just talk about it, I can transmute the energy, because I was still in denial about that diagnosis, or what I have diagnosed in my own energy, what is textbook covert narcissism. Right down to, there's a syndrome in the book of Covert Narcissism where they talk about Eeyore syndrome, where a covert narc is usually very depressive and very regressed, and it's not like a malignant narc. And I used to call her Eeyore all the time. When they talk about the sexual habits of covert narcs, they describe Black Widow spiders. I called her a Black Widow from the time we met when we were kids. Kids, I say 20 somethings, okay? So it's interesting. My angels say you always knew. We were always communicating with you before you even were acknowledging how we worked in your life. We always knew, and we were trying to let you know. And turn on my fan, it's getting hot in here. And that malignant narc knew. Guys, sometimes in our lives, we will have people that come in and that hip us to game. He certainly did. I'm not going to be sending him a fruit basket. I'll keep my no contact, thank you. But damn it if he wasn't right. This is something new. There's a lot to teach here, and we will be unpacking it slowly. But bear in mind that a broken clock can be right twice a day. Be very careful who you're sharing your energy with and spending your time with. They're not who you think. Not always. Some of us are healthy and balanced. This experience, her cruelty, her selfishness, the way she gave to everybody around her but wouldn't give to me, but ripped me off, stole, carbon copy lifted my whole identity, knowing damn well she never put in an ounce of work to it, and doesn't even believe it, honestly. Honestly, doesn't even believe it, and actually probably thinks that I'm evil, which is the most hilarious of all, the greatest irony. She thinks that I'm evil. Y'all, this one was a tricky one, but I'm going to come back and we're going to teach about it. This is just a little bit of stream of consciousness here. A broken clock can be right twice a day, and a covert narcissist is far more insidious than a malignant. Trust me. All right, guys, come on back. I'm going to try to lift the energy of it, but we're going to evolve together.